Welcome to Women of the World, a show which gives voice to women from around the world who have chosen to make the United States their home. Hosted today by Melissa Nembangi, and here's Melissa.
Hello, and welcome to this second episode of Women of the World TV show. If you missed us last time, my name is Nyango Melissa Nembangi, and I'm originally from Cameroon, West Africa. And we have our co-host, Amalia, who is originally from Latin America. Guatemala, yes. And we have
Uma
Janga from India originally. And we have Fadia
from Yemen.
And we have a special guest today, Nadia Polukhin-Pratt, who
Hi,
we are
ladies.
going to be talking
Hello,
with.
Nadia.
Hello, ladies. Hello, the viewers at home.
We are going to be talking with her throughout this session. She is an immigration lawyer, and she also works with the disabled, and she has a fascinating story about herself. So we are really going to be asking her questions, and I promise you it's going to be a great show.
That's right.
Yeah, so let me get this started with, just want to know what led you into the line of work that you do. A little bit about your background too, because I know you started off from Russia and you've done quite a few.
Overstops or stopovers, as we
So
say.
please, let us hear in your own words.
I don't know if really I chose law or if law really chose me, ladies. My story is that I was born in the former Soviet Union on the very southern part of what is now Russia. It's a small vacation city called Novorossiysk. And my parents realized coming close to the end of the Soviet era that things are going to collapse. And they realized that honest people will not be able to survive in this country anymore. My mother is a physician. My father was a marine engineer. He was in the Russian Navy. And they both decided, look, we're of Jewish descent and we're going to immigrate and we're going to leave the Soviet Union that was already in the process of collapsing. We always wanted to make it to the United States. But at that time, the immigration quotas to the US were full. So we immigrated to Israel. And it was wonderful for me. A little bit of a culture shock for my folks. But for me, I got the beach. I got friendly people, I got delicious food, exciting life, so I was just so happy. I believe Miss Fadia. I was 7 years old, so Miss Fadia will probably understand that being from Yemen. So we lived there for 7 years, and then my mother was offered a position in Toronto, Canada. And I was 15 at that time, and we flew to the border, and I had an expired visa. And unbeknownst to us, I was not allowed to enter because between the time my visa was issued and the time we were coming, the law has changed. And nobody let us know. So we were stuck at the Canadian border for 8 hours. And like some of you probably know and some of the viewers know, that was awful. We had no visa. We were literally physically detained in a room. We couldn't go to the restroom. We couldn't eat. It was terrible. I was later on allowed in. I was entered with what's called a minister's permit, kind of like a parole in the United States, which delayed my green card or landed immigrant status in Canada, which delayed my citizenship. And I said to myself, you know, if I can save one individual, just one person from this kind of an experience, I've done my duty in my life. So when we moved to the United States later on, I attended McGill University in Montreal, Canada. When we moved to the United States, there was no shadow of doubt that law was my calling. And I said to myself, with the language skills that I have, with that experience always looming in the background, you know, I need to help people. And that's what inspired me with all of my immigration history and career to start doing law. Got my law degree at William Mitchell and worked for a small immigration firm. Economic crisis happened, unfortunately. All of us lived through it here in the US. Lost my job. Opened a small law firm with my own cell phone and my laptop. That's all I had to get going. And now we're getting bigger. We're representing a lot of people. Started to do disability work, another very inspiring and influential aspect Absolutely love it. So, like I said, not sure who chose me, the law, me or me law, or the land, me or me the land. But
yeah, typically lawyers is like, typically either fathers or ancestors should be in the field, so that they get that interest. So
Correct.
did you have anybody in your family who had that interest in the law profession, or is it just for this you chose this law
well,
profession?
like a typical Russian Jewish mother, my mother said to me, darling, you can be anything you want.
Okay.
A lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. Anything you want within those three disciplines.
Oh, see,
So, no, I didn't have anybody who's a lawyer in our family.
okay.
But like I said to myself, I don't want to be a lawyer. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a doctor.
Okay.
I'm not very good with math. In
Okay.
fact, I'm very bad with math. And so I decided, you know what, let me take up law and really give voice to the voiceless. Give voice to those that don't have it.
That's one of the profession I think you can really help people who are
Yes,
suffering from any kind of law issues and everything.
Yes.
It's really inspiring.
Vis-a-vis the immigrants, I actually find that I'm a much more of an advantageous position
Yes, I would.
that I am at a disadvantage. Because of the fact that I understand what it's like to not have the right paper at the border and being stopped. And I understand what it's like not to speak the language.
Yes.
I understand the stigma of having a very thick accent in English, and people talk to you slower, and people talk to you like you're not very bright.
Yes.
When in fact you have 3 or 4 degrees in your home country, and your accent is not a reflection of your intelligence. So I think on the being member of the bar, once in a while I see that as a challenge, but mostly I see it as an advantage. And people ask me, well, why Minnesota? How do you do this in Minnesota? And I say, Minnesota has been so accustomed to newcomers
Yeah.
and so open to newcomers.
And
since
welcoming too.
And welcoming. Since the 70s, I mean, we start with the Hmong refugees, then the big African population, then we have the big, Somali immigration, Russian religious immigrants. Minnesotans are used to it, and they're welcoming to it. And I like the fact that we are a state that honors the rule of law.
Yes.
I think that is so important, and I find it very, very interesting and intriguing to be in this community.
So for how many years have you had your firm?
I've had my own firm since 2009, so going on, 7, 8 years? My math isn't bad.
About that.
The Russia that you were born in, that you grew up in, and that you left, is a different Russia today.
Yes.
Yes,
And the culture has changed around that.
yes.
What has your experience been regarding the people that you talk to in Russia that are your contemporaries, the younger people, the millennials? What differences do you see? And when you practice law in the U.S., are your clients mostly Americans or are they Russian?
People that come to the U.S. are in and of themselves unique. They're not like the general mass population of where they come from. They're unique in the fact that they're ambitious. They're unique in the fact that they're trying to survive and further themselves here. So with them, I think because of my vast experience being in Russia, being in Israel, being in Montreal, Canada, now living here, being all over the U.S., I find that common denominator, because when a client comes to me, irrespective of their title, be that they're a consular worker, be that they're just an average granite layer roofer, be that they're a very big politician in their home country, I always ask them, tell me why you're here. I listen to them. So I find very easy, very common denominator. With the millennials, it's more interesting because there's more of a culture of, well, I'm entitled and don't you know? And I explain to them, I don't think the law in Minnesota particularly cares what you're entitled to and what you know. But let's talk about what problems you have. What is it that you have underneath this, persona, facade, misunderstanding of your life or your entitlement? And let's talk about what you need, because you're here for a reason, and let me see if I can help you. Very often and very infrequently that someone walks out of my office and says, no. Very often we find a common ground, because at the end of the day, all of us are seeking something and all of us need something, and that is help, especially if you're in a chair vis-a-vis me talking to me. For clients, what is my demographic? I don't think I have a demographic. My client, like I said, is the average 45-year-old Latino roofer with 5 kids who's undocumented. My client is a disabled African woman who needs to apply for disability. My client is a Russian hockey player, Canadian model. It's just so diverse, and I think that really keeps me on my toes versus seeing the same type of client, the same time of transaction. It really gets me to think, well, within the parameters of this legal framework and what I know about this person's background, what do they need and how do I tell their story? Every story is unique. There's no one that looks the same. They're all very unique.
Since there are different clients, which kind of client that made you feel satisfied that you're doing your job? You know, like, okay, there should be something. Like you do for everyone, but there's certain criteria and certain segment you feel like, okay, satisfied that your job satisfied. Okay, this is what I wanted to do, and I did it. Did you feel that you accomplished that?
I do feel I accomplished that. And again, because my client is so diverse, there isn't necessarily such thing as, well, I signed this transaction and my corporation or the person I represented make X amount of dollars more than the prior transaction. I don't have that. Anytime that a client gets to understand not only what's happening in their legal process, but why it's happening, I get satisfaction. And I've lost many times, miserably. And the client said to me, Nadia, thank you. This is the first time in my life that not only I understood what happened, but I understood why this was the outcome. So there isn't such thing as, you know, oh, this is really satisfying and this isn't. Every single case is unique, and every single case, when clients know what is happening and why, I do my job. I walk out of the, you know, wherever I am at, and I say to myself, this is great. Thank God that I'm allowed to do this every day.
Yeah, as far as I know that the asylum seeker process or the refugees process is really long process. If you can wish or can do something to change the law, what exactly that thing?
I would say that's an excellent question. There are so many aspects to this question because everyone needs something different. And certain parts of our government system work brilliantly. They work well. They work efficiently. They work timely. Other parts of our government system are broken. And they're broken because we don't have enough resources, because we don't have enough good people that do this because they like it. They're people that punch in, literally, clock in and clock out and leave. So if there were parts that could change about at least my area of practice, is give the government more good people that could apply to represent you and I or us on the other side of that bench, on the other side of that table, to understand that what they're doing is trying to help people and not just push paper. Right. That would be, you know, what I would say I would like to see more resources and more hiring of qualified people that have a passion for it, that don't just need to clock in and out. So that's what I would change if I could. If I could.
Definitely.
When a person comes to me for disability, a person is stuck in the process. Either they're stuck in the process because they're not getting the benefit that they need and they're truly disabled and unable to work. Or there are components of the process that they don't understand that potentially went awry, didn't go in the right direction, and that individual is stuck not understanding the process either with a current representative or current lawyer. Same for immigration. That's the same thing. Usually people come to me whether they need a benefit or they're stuck in the process, or truthfully, whether they know they're going to get the benefit, they just don't want to have the headache. They just say, Nadia, here's my money, here's my well-being, I'll see you at the end of the road, which is nice too.
It is probably very rewarding for you to be able to help people that way. I am curious about how you feel your connection to home. Do you still feel that you're part of the Russian culture? Do you feel bicultural? And do you speak Russian?
I speak Russian. To answer that question backwards, I speak Russian, I speak French, I speak Hebrew, I speak, obviously, a little English, and I'm trying to pick up un poquito español. I understand more Spanish than I speak back. I do feel, truthfully, like a citizen of the world. I don't feel like I have a home. Home is where my family is, and I have a husband who's an American, as he likes to say, from the great land of Burnsville. After I introduce myself, people ask him, where are you from? He says, great land of Burnsville. I have a beautiful son here. He's 2.5. So this is my home. This is where I'm at right now. This is where life is good. If we were to relocate and make a new home wherever we go, I truly feel like a citizen of the world. I don't have a place like maybe most of you women that you call home when you go there. That doesn't exist to me. So many different parts of my life were spent in different areas, and all were very good to me.
And you left really young.
And I left really young, correct. I left very young, and like I said, my life was so chopped up that I don't have an abode, a place that I can say this is it.
You know, and that might be the key. That may be the difference amongst all immigrants, because I think it really depends when we arrive in the U.S. If we arrive here as a kid, we become more acculturated faster. But if we come here as an adult and already formed, we retain a lot of the roots and a lot of the culture.
Sure.
And for me, it's a calling, but also it's something interesting happens to you as an immigrant, and probably you can all relate to this, that when you come from another country and you've been here for a number of years, you not only go through an adaptation process, but you also go through an identity crisis.
Yes.
Yes.
And I went through that, and eventually, you know, I sorted out, yes, my heart is Guatemala, but I am an American citizen. And I love my home country as much as I love the U.S. for different reasons.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think to speak to that, there is a very large component of me that is Russian. There is a very large component of me that is Israeli. There is also a very large component of me that is Canadian. And a lot of people in the U.S., especially in our northern state, you know, the Southerners joke that Minnesota is part of Canada. It's the other province. But there is a big distinction and difference between what Canada is and isn't vis-a-vis the U.S. And then there's still a large part of me that's the U.S. And the irony of this is when I see that I can joke about all of the cultural little quirks in all of the four cultures with people that are completely foreign to any of those four cultures. But I understand what you mean about the identity crisis and the adaptation. My first year of law school, I kept getting yelled at by the people that were reviewing me. And I came to a professor, very, very great Minnesotan professor that's done a lot of advocacy and trial prep with very prominent litigators. And I said to him, John, why am I being yelled at? What am I doing wrong? He said, look at you, lower your chin, back up, relax, this is Minnesota. So that was definitely a culture adaptation and slightly a shock.
And you probably go through that no matter where you are in the U.S. because the culture is different within the U.S.
Correct.
So you're in Minnesota, it's one culture. You go to the South, it's totally different.
Totally
East,
different.
West, and so on.
Correct. And how people perceive each other within their community and how people perceive immigrants is completely different. I mean, Miami is a different world than it is in Minneapolis,
Absolutely.
than it is Chicago, than it is San Diego, than it is New Hampshire. They're all so diverse and unique, and like you said, your love for the U.S. is a different kind of love than your love it is for your home country, but the pride that we all have by being here and living here and claiming that this is now our homeland, a homeland that allows us to be who we are, is the beauty of it all.
Absolutely.
We left Soviet Union because we couldn't be who we are. Jewish entrepreneurs, successful doctors, women that were in power. So this is the beauty, at least where I think we live.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. That was a very informative session and really wonderful. And thank you all so much, all my co-hosts, for being part of this and for making the conversation so interesting.